The music was soft, the lights golden. Everything looked like a dream, at least from the outside. I adjusted my suit jacket, exhaled, and started walking toward the front row of our wedding ceremony. I just finished greeting a few distant relatives and was ready to finally sit beside my bride, my wife. But as I approached the groom's chair, something surreal happened. Emily, my wife of 23 minutes, tilted her head slightly, gave me a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes, and leaned in. Her lips barely moved as she whispered, "Not here. Go sit in the guest section." I froze. My blood ran cold. "What?" I said, trying to smile, convinced I must have misheard. She didn't repeat herself. She just turned to him. Jason. Her ex. The rich one. The one she swore was just a piece of her past. The one she insisted she hadn't seen in years. He was in a tailored navy tux, grinning like the devil at a poker table. She looked at him and said it out loud this time, for everyone to hear. "You deserve this seat more." And with that, Jason smirked and slid into the chair beside her, my seat, like it had all been rehearsed. Her family laughed. My family stayed quiet, too shocked to move. I heard my own heartbeat louder than the music, the vows, the murmurs. Something cracked inside me right then, not like a window breaking. No, it was like a rib snapping inward. It felt slow, personal, vicious. So I did the only thing I could. I stepped back, straightened my suit, and said, loud enough for everyone, "Carry on." And I walked out. But not home. Not away. Not broken. See, this wasn't the first red flag. It was the last one. The final slash in a long string of wounds. They didn't know I already knew. They didn't know I'd seen the messages. They didn't know what was about to happen. Because while they were laughing, I had already turned the knife. The week before the wedding, I noticed something was off. Emily was always on edge. She started keeping her phone face down. No more playful banter. No more late-night giggles in the kitchen. She said it was wedding stress. But the worst part? The way she kept mentioning her ex like it was no big deal. Jason texted to say congrats. Jason's mom sent a gift. Isn't that sweet? At first, I brushed it off. I didn't want to be that guy. The jealous one. The insecure groom. But then came the calls. Short, clipped, late-night whispers on the balcony. And when I walked in, she pretended it was a work thing. I wasn't born yesterday. So I played dumb. For a while. Until Thursday night. She was out with her girls for a bachelorette redo. I was home, sitting on the couch, flipping through Netflix, trying not to overthink. But something pushed me. A gut feeling, or maybe just the final straw. So I went to her laptop. She was logged into her email. Maybe I shouldn't have looked. But I did. And there it was. An entire thread between her and Jason. Messages that made my stomach turn. Things like, "I wish it was you walking me down the aisle. You'll always be the one I want beside me. Let's give them a show they'll never forget." Plans. Arranged seating. That disgusting little phrase, "You'll sit where you should have been." I didn't throw the laptop. I didn't scream. I just stared at the screen, and something inside me went still. Not angry. Not sad. Just clear. I printed every message. Sealed them in an envelope. And called my best friend Tyler, who was also my best man. I told him everything. We made a plan. So when I said carry on and walked out of that wedding, I didn't leave broken. I walked straight to the sound booth where the reception music was queued up. "Play the track." I told the DJ I'd hired myself. "Now." He nodded. The speakers cut out. And instead of music, the entire tent heard the voice of Emily, my wife, reading her own words aloud in a recording I'd made. Every lie. Every message. Every filthy promise. Gasps. Silence. Then chaos. Emily stood up, screaming something. Jason looked like he'd seen a ghost. Her dad yelled at the DJ. Her mom tried to pull the plug. But it was too late. Everyone heard the truth. And that was just the beginning. I didn't wait to watch the fallout. I turned and walked out of the venue while the chaos roared behind me. A part of me wanted to look back, to see her face as her perfect performance crumbled. But I knew if I did, I'd break. And I wasn't about to give her that. Tyler was waiting by the car, engine already running. I got in, silent. He didn't ask questions. He just drove. I don't remember much of the ride. Just flashes, the flicker of passing headlights, the weight of my suit suddenly feeling like a straitjacket, the taste of blood in my mouth from clenching my jaw too hard. My phone buzzed. I didn't check it. I already knew what it would say. Emily begging. Emily denying. Emily spinning the truth like she always did. But I wasn't ready for the video. Tyler pulled over at a gas station. "You good?" he asked. I nodded and finally checked my phone. There it was. A shaky video someone had posted. Already going viral. Me walking away. Her screaming. The recording echoing through the venue. Jason's face turning pale. Her father throwing a chair. The comments were brutal. She really told her husband to sit with the guests? Bro handled it like a king. Straight savage. She deserves everything coming to her. I should have felt vindicated. But all I felt was this cold, hollow ache in my chest. We drove back to my apartment. Well, our apartment, though she'd barely been there the last few weeks. Always staying with Mom for wedding stuff. I used to believe her. Now, I walked in like a stranger returning to a crime scene. Everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. There was a wine glass on the table. Lipstick smudged around the rim. One of her heels kicked off under the coffee table. A scarf Jason had once left during a group dinner was draped over the couch arm like some sick trophy. I grabbed a duffel and started packing. I didn't care about the TV, the decor, or even the expensive espresso machine she begged me to buy. I wanted out. Out of this mess. Out of the lies. Halfway through zipping the bag, the front door opened. She was there. No tears. No shame. No regret. Just fury. UF asterisk 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 ing embarrassed me, she hissed. At our wedding. I stood there, stunned. That's what she led with. Not an apology. Not confusion. Just anger, because I'd ruined her show. I didn't answer. She stepped closer, her heels clacking like nails on glass. You had no right. I laughed. Actually laughed. No right? You sat your ex in my seat. You planned the whole thing behind my back. It was a joke, she snapped. You're so sensitive. It was just to get Jason's attention. His dad's company out. I cut her off. Was it a joke when you texted him that you wished he was the one marrying you? She flinched. Briefly. Then rolled her eyes. You read my private messages? You lied to my face for months, I said, stepping closer. Don't talk to me about privacy. She folded her arms. Well, maybe if you were a little more exciting, I wouldn't have had to talk to him at all. There it was. The venom. The real her. I nodded slowly. Thank you. For what? She barked. For showing me exactly who you are. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. You think you can just walk out? After all I did for you. I shook her off. What you did to me, not for me. She laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You're nothing without me. You think people care about you? You'll fade. I'm the one with the name. The image. You were just convenient. I stopped in the doorway and looked back one last time. I'd rather be nothing than be anything to you. And then I was gone. That night, I slept at Tyler's place. Barely slept, really. Just stared at the ceiling, replaying everything. Her voice. That moment at the wedding. Jason's smug face. The silence from my own family. The next morning, I had 47 missed calls. 22 texts. A voicemail from her mom, telling me to be a man and fix this. I blocked them all. Because something inside me had changed. And I wasn't done yet. The next few days were a blur of legal documents, silence, and a strange kind of peace. I filed for annulment the same week. I wasn't going to wait. I didn't need time to think it through. I'd already done all the thinking during those months she was sneaking around with Jason, feeding me lies like bedtime stories. Tyler stayed close. He kept me grounded. He watched me break plates one moment and sit in dead silence the next. He didn't say much, just let me unravel and slowly, piece by piece, start tying myself back together. Then came the messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Old friends, distant cousins, even coworkers who had been at the wedding. They all saw the video. It had spread like wildfire. Apparently, someone from her family had sold it to a gossip page. I don't know if it was out of spite or greed, but I didn't care. I welcomed it. Let the world see. But the real punch came 2 days later when I got a call from my lawyer. He said, "You're not going to like this," and then told me Emily had already moved to contest the annulment. Not because she wanted to fix things, but because she claimed I had embarrassed her and ruined her social image. She wanted a public apology. And half my business. Let that sink in. This woman, this manipulative, heartless creature who humiliated me at our own wedding, now wanted to punish me for not playing along. Tyler was the one who convinced me to go public with my side of the story. You've been quiet long enough, he said. It's time they hear what really happened. So I did. One interview. One carefully planned, brutally honest interview with a well-known podcast host who had already covered the viral clip. I laid everything out. The texts, the lies, the coldness, the betrayal, and the moment she gave my seat away to her ex. I didn't yell. I didn't attack. I just told the truth. And the internet exploded. Support poured in. People started tagging her on everything, calling her out. Her brand endorsements began to vanish. Clients dropped her. That little influencer empire she tried to build on my name began to crumble. But it didn't feel like revenge. It felt like justice. That week, Emily showed up at my apartment. I heard the buzzer, checked the screen, and there she was. Red eyes, makeup smudged, in an oversized hoodie like she thought looking soft would erase what she did. I should have ignored it. I almost did. But part of me wanted to hear what her excuse would be this time. I opened the door. She didn't say hi. Just walked in like it was still hers. "You destroyed me," she whispered. I laughed. "You destroyed yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She sat on the couch like she had the right to. "You don't get it. Jason wasn't supposed to actually show up." "Oh, so your plan to humiliate me was just hypothetical?" She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned forward and said, "I made a mistake, okay?" I was stressed. Everything was moving too fast. I stared at her. "So you thought throwing me under the bus in front of both our families would make things slower?" She ran a hand through her hair. "Jason made me feel something. But he's not you. You're kind. Safe. You don't scare me." Those words. "You don't scare me." Like she saw my love as weakness. Like being safe was boring. I stood up. "You wanted a storm. Now you've got one." She looked up, eyes flickering with panic. "So that's it? No chance? After everything?" I nodded. "Exactly. After everything." She cried. I didn't. She begged. I didn't move. She called me cruel. I opened the door and waited for her to leave. She did, eventually. But not before saying the last pathetic thing she could. "You'll regret this. No one will love you like I did." I smiled. IF asterisk 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 ing hope not. And with that, I closed the door. For good this time. I didn't hear from her for weeks after that night. Not directly, at least. But I saw her everywhere. Headlines, Instagram posts crying about being betrayed, captions about being a survivor of emotional manipulation, trying to rewrite the story to paint herself as the victim. But people weren't buying it anymore. The comments were brutal. Every time she tried to spin her narrative, someone posted the video, the audio, screenshots. Truth hit harder than her fake tears ever could. And Jason? He disappeared the second things got messy. No public defense, no follow-ups, no damage control. Just gone. Which told me everything I needed to know about the kind of man she threw me away for. Still, there were nights when the silence in my apartment got too loud. When I found myself staring at the ceiling again, wondering how I let her get so close. Wondering how many of those kisses, those laughs, those late-night whispers had been real, and how many were just well-placed lies. Because the thing no one tells you about betrayal is that it doesn't just cut once. It echoes. It hits you when you see couples laughing in grocery stores. When you hear songs that used to mean something. When you find one of her hairs on your jacket and freeze because you recognize the scent, and your body reacts before your brain remembers she's gone. But slowly, I started breathing easier. I got back to the gym. I stopped skipping meals. Tyler got me back into playing poker on Thursdays, and those nights started to feel like home again. Then came the call that flipped everything. It was from Emily's sister, Lauren. We'd never been close, but she had always been polite. Quiet. "I need to talk to you," she said. At first, I thought it was some kind of trap, but something in her voice sounded different. Nervous. Honest. We met at a cafe. She came in wearing sunglasses and a hoodie, like she didn't want to be seen. "I know I shouldn't be doing this," she said, "but you need to know something." I leaned in. "What is it?" She looked around and dropped her voice. Emily never stopped seeing Jason. Not just before the wedding. Not just during. Ever. She's been meeting him for months. Even while she was posting your engagement photos. I already knew this. I'd read the messages. But then she said, and it wasn't just Jason. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "There was another guy," she said. "And maybe more. She used to brag about it. Said she deserved attention. Said you were too routine for someone like her." I sat there, frozen. Lauren looked guilty. I didn't know she'd go this far. I didn't think she'd actually humiliate you like that. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I thanked her. I didn't ask for more details. I didn't want names. Because somehow, knowing it wasn't just Jason hurt less than knowing it had never meant anything to her at all. That night, I went back home and pulled out our old wedding invitation. I don't know why I kept one. Maybe to remind myself that sometimes people really are that good at pretending. I burned it in the sink, watched the edges curl and blacken until all that was left was ash and silence. A silence that, for the first time, felt like peace. A few days later, I got an email from Emily. No subject line, just a wall of text. She told me she was sorry, that she didn't realize what she had until it was gone, that Jason had ghosted her, that she'd lost her sponsorship deals, that her own parents were furious with her. She said she felt empty. She said she missed us. She asked if we could talk. I didn't reply, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because some people don't deserve closure. Some people only understand silence. And I was finally ready to give her that. I didn't delete the email. I let it sit in my inbox like a corpse, something I'd already buried, but kept around just to remind myself why I'd walked away. There's a strange kind of strength in not replying, in resisting the urge to send a final message, to get that last word in. It took everything in me not to type out every disgusting truth she'd forced me to swallow. But I didn't. She didn't get that satisfaction. Instead, I moved on. I hired someone to get her name off everything we shared, bank accounts, lease agreements, even the stupid Netflix profile with the pink icon and her favorite shows. I was thorough. She still tried to reach out. Through mutual friends, DMs, even a handwritten letter she mailed to my parents' place. I didn't read it. My mom did. Said it was a mix of self-pity and manipulation, like she was trying to cry on paper. That sounded about right. Then one night, Tyler and I were out at this dive bar downtown. Just drinks, just laughs. For once, it felt normal. I wasn't thinking about her. I wasn't running mental replays of that wedding moment. And then I saw her. Across the room. Alone. She looked off. Not sad, not broken, just hollow. Like someone wearing her own skin wrong. She caught my eye. Started to walk toward me. I didn't flinch. When she got close, she smiled. The same smile she used to get her way. The kind that used to make me drop arguments and forgive things I shouldn't have. Hey, she said. I looked her dead in the eyes. I don't know you. She blinked, stunned. Then I turned and walked away. And that was it. The moment I knew I was free. That night, I lay in bed and didn't think about her. Not once. Instead, I thought about how I'd survived it all. The lies. The betrayal. The humiliation. And I was still standing. A little colder. A little smarter. But standing. They say heartbreak changes a man. That's true. But betrayal? That carves you down to your bones and forces you to rebuild from ashes. It's brutal. It's ugly. But it's honest. I learned to stop romanticizing potential. To pay attention to the little lies, because they're never just little. To trust my gut more than sweet words and empty apologies. I learned that love without respect is just a slow death. And most of all, I learned that silence, real silence, is louder than any revenge. So if you're reading this, and you've gone through something like I did, let me tell you what no one else will. You will hurt. You will scream. You will want to break things. But one day, you'll wake up. And the pain will be less. And her name will feel lighter. And your reflection will look stronger. And you'll smile. Not because you've forgotten, but because you survived. And that makes you unstoppable. Weeks passed. Then months. And I found myself breathing easier, laughing harder, sleeping through the night without waking up to phantom memories. The storm had passed, not quietly, not without wreckage, but it had passed. I didn't date right away. I didn't want to. I had to relearn what peace felt like without constantly scanning for betrayal behind a smile. I had to unlearn the way she taught me to question my worth in every quiet moment. But slowly, things shifted. One Saturday, I ran into Claire. She used to work with Emily years ago, back when things were still new and I still believed in fairy tales. Claire always had a quick wit and these eyes that looked like they could see straight through your bullshit *T. We bumped into each other at a bookstore of all places. I was browsing a shelf I had no business being in, pretending I read poetry when really I was killing time. She looked up from a book and said, "You finally escaped." I laughed because it caught me off guard. Was it that obvious? She closed the book. It was obvious to everyone but you. There was no bitterness in her voice, no judgment. Just truth. We ended up grabbing coffee, talking for hours. Not about the past, not even really about relationships. Just life. Real stuff. It was the first time in a long time I spoke to a woman without scanning every sentence for manipulation or rehearsed charm. Claire didn't flinch when I talked about what happened. She didn't pity me. She just listened. And that meant more than she probably knew. We didn't start dating that night. It wasn't one of those stories, but it was the first moment I realized I was open again. Not to love necessarily, but to trust, to possibility. One evening, I walked by a wedding in the park. Some young couple laughing, holding hands, people clapping. It should have made me bitter. Should have made me tighten my chest and walk faster. But it didn't. I smiled, because I knew that love like that existed. And I also knew what it looked like when it didn't. I got an email not long after. From Jason. Yeah, him. The subject line said, "Apology, if it means anything now." I almost deleted it. But I opened it. The message was short. He said he didn't know the whole story back then. That Emily had told him we were in an open relationship, that we were already falling apart, and I had agreed to everything. He said he realized she'd played him too. And that the moment he heard the audio of her wedding vows being exposed, he knew she was dangerous in a way he hadn't seen coming. I didn't reply. What could I say? We were both used. Doesn't make us friends. But I didn't hate him anymore. I saved the email. Not as a trophy. Just as a reminder. I think the biggest surprise in healing is how boring it gets. There's no dramatic finish. No final battle where you shout into the rain. It's quiet. It's waking up and not thinking of her name. It's seeing a photo of her online and feeling nothing. That's the real ending. Not rage. Not revenge. Just peace. I moved into a new apartment across the city. Smaller, but mine. Filled it with plants I'm still learning how not to kill. Hung up art that makes me feel something. Not chosen to match a color scheme for Instagram photos. Sometimes, I still catch myself flinching when someone says her name in passing. Like a muscle memory. Like a ghost of who I used to be. But then I remind myself she doesn't live here anymore. Not in this space. Not in my mind. Not in my heart. I do. And that's enough. The final piece clicked into place a year later. I was at a friend's housewarming party, nothing fancy, just music, drinks, people talking over each other. I stepped out to the balcony for some air, and there she was again. Not Emily. Claire. She smiled when she saw me, holding 2 glasses of wine like she expected to run into me. Figured I'd find you hiding from the noise, she said. Not hiding, I replied. Just appreciating the quiet. She handed me a glass and leaned on the railing next to me. We didn't say much at first. Just watched the city breathe beneath us. Then she looked at me and said, "You seem lighter." I took a sip. I am. And I meant it. Not because I'd found some new great love or because I'd erased the past, but because I finally understood something I'd missed before. The betrayal wasn't my fault. I didn't push her away. I didn't ruin what we had. She did. With her lies. With her need to play people like they were pieces on a board she was trying to control. And I had just been the unlucky soul who believed her when she said, "I do." But I wasn't that man anymore. I was the man who stood up, straightened his suit, and said, "Carry on," while the whole world watched him fall, only to rise taller from the ashes. Claire nudged me. "So, you still think about her?" I shook my head. "Not really. She was just a lesson." Claire raised a brow. "And what did she teach you?" I turned toward her, letting the city lights reflect in her eyes. "She taught me how to spot the real ones." Claire smiled again. This time slower. Warmer. Good answer. And just like that, I felt it. Not the pain. Not the weight. But the freedom. For the first time, I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. So here's what I'll leave you with, if you've been where I was. Believe the small lies. They're warnings. Don't chase people who are sprinting away from your love. And never, ever apologize for the moment you choose yourself. Because the right ones? They won't make you earn your seat beside them. They'll pull out the chair themselves.